Hello, everyone out there in YouTube, Twitter, wherever you are coming to us on the interwebs, maybe even Facebook. We had that the other day. And today, I, Ginger, am back with, I've got a guest that we were going to have her on last week, but there was a last-minute emergency. These things happen when you've got rugrats. They do all kinds of crazy things. And, fortunately, you guys got the benefit of Crystal being able to come on, and we were able to get Albany back pretty much right away. So, Albany, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to do this, and thankfully, it was not as bad as we thought last week, but still grateful that.
That is good. That is good. Yes, those things always look and feel worse than they are when you're dealing with kids. Gosh, quick story before we actually get started. When my oldest was 5, we were goofing off and stuff at the old house, and she was charging me, like a kid, just I'm gonna run into Dad. That's gonna be fun. And I was like, haha, I'll prove that I'm faster than a 5-year-old. And so I dodged to the side, and I was gonna poke her, but she was too fast. And she runs right past me and right into the corner of the table. Right, not just right into the corner, but teeth first into the corner of the table. Boom, 2 front teeth gone. Just destroyed. She's bleeding and crying. I feel like an absolute horrible person.
And of course, it's a mouth wound, so it's going to bleed extra.
Oh, it just kept bleeding, and that was the worst.
That's what happened. Ours wasn't the mouth, but ours was the head wound last week. We have she was jumping on the bed. Of course it didn't matter. Hey, go upstairs. Of course it didn't matter how many times I told them not to jump on the bed.
Why would it?
Not right now. You need to go talk to Daddy. That's why you have another parent. You go talk to the other parent.
Talk to you in a little bit.
Two.
When you come up.
I will talk to you when I come upstairs. Yes. Thank you. Bye.
Teddy.
No, you cannot have the teddy bear. Put it down.
Kids are cute.
And we changed all of them in the house, but I actually had forgotten about it was just a vent cover, and I had forgotten about this one because the bed was hiding it, and it's an old vent cover that's like a box square, so it has the hard part. She fell and hit her head, and it was the tiniest little cut. When it was finally clean and we could actually see it, the tiniest hole, nothing wrong, but of course bled like crazy.
And of course, yeah, it's bleeding like crazy. She's crying, you're panicking. That's how these things go. Yeah, it's just how it rolls.
Nothing can scare me. That's why people always try to intimidate me. You know how it is, especially online in the pro-life world. I'm like, I have 4 children. There is nothing you can say to scare me. Nothing.
No, not really. Now getting into that, we of course first met just a little bit online. I actually had to think about it, and it was actually a tweet that Britt had sent out. It was about your business with the ProLife T-shirts and everything, and I was like, oh, this person is interesting. Cool, follow. And then of course I saw that you had posted that you were going to the March for Life this past January. I was like, holy crap! Actually, no, it was while actually we were both already there in DC. Yep. And then I'm like, holy crap, I'm there. Where are you? So yeah, Albany and I actually got to meet briefly down at where they have the big expo and everything in DC, selling all the pro-life stuffs, all the books and the posters and the T-shirts. Although you had a bit of a kerfluffle with getting your stuff out, but my girls actually managed to buy a couple, and they're very happy with their their T-shirts. So I'm good. And we'll definitely come back to your T-shirt business here in a little bit. But you, of course, are also just in and of itself interesting in the pro-life world, in that you're a pro-life atheist, which I know they exist. You're not the first one I've ever interacted with, but let's face it, you're a minority.
Not your most common to run into.
No, not the most common, and which is always great because in the pro-life world, we're always like, no, it's not because we're religious. It's because this makes sense. Granted, most pro-life people are religious, but still, it's not really based on that. So, but still, given the general way things tend to line up, logic aside, how does this happen?
So, I mean, I became pro-life before I became an atheist, and I was pro-life. You want to be grounded?
No, hold on. You
want to be grounded?
What?
You want to be grounded?
I want to talk to you.
You can go upstairs. You may have one sucker. Yay.
Okay, make sure I got there. You were pro-life before you became an atheist.
Yeah, so
The
I've been
story's going to be more interesting than I thought. Okay.
I've been pro-life for about 8.5 years, and in June will be when I've been an atheist for 6 years. So,
Okay.
a little bit of backstory. I had an abortion that I didn't want when I was 16. My dad told me that you will be homeless. I will kick you out of the house. You will have no one. And I had to schedule my hello.
I'm sorry, but that's funny. For anyone listening afterwards, she's got a cat waving a tail in her face right now.
Yeah, one sucker. Just leave me alone. And so the first Planned Parenthood I had to go to, it was not where I had the abortion. It's just where they performed the sonograms, the ultrasounds to confirm how far along you are. Because Planned Parenthood, they can only do abortions up to, it used to be 24 weeks, but I think now it's 19 weeks, at least in this state.
I was going to say, it depends a lot on where you live.
Yeah. But of course, here in Colorado, you can have an abortion for any reason through all of pregnancy. So if you're further, they'd send you somewhere else. And
I see.
So they determined I was 8 to 9 weeks, scheduled me at another Planned Parenthood facility, which actually was torn down years ago to build like their hotel version of Planned Parenthood. Oh yeah, it's ugly. It's the third largest in the country. It's surrounded by an 8-foot black spiked fence with a black tarp. Like, it looks gnarly. But,
wow.
Yeah, not pretty.
It's not named Treblinka by any chance, is it?
What?
It's not named Treblinka.
No.
Just asking questions.
And so when I went to the first Planned Parenthood, I asked if I could see the ultrasound, and she told me no, and I wouldn't be able to see anything anyways. And so when I became pregnant again, when I was 19, newly 19, I went to my typical 8-week ultrasound, like you do, to make sure that, the baby implanted in the proper place and everything was doing okay. There's a cat here. And I remember thinking it was weird because I was like, well, I remember years ago that you can't see anything, so I don't know what they're looking for. And so I get there, and I remember her heartbeat was 160 beats per minute, and she was this little nugget with a big fat head. And
yeah, that's about right.
They essentially at that stage they don't have the full hands yet, but they have these little like webbed
little stubs,
little nubs. Yeah. And I just remember the wiggles. I just remember her wiggling around and that heartbeat, and it changed everything. And I tried really hard to stay pro-choice, desperately to stay pro-choice. And just the more I, became pregnant, and the more I started opening my eyes to what pro-life people had to say, everything changed. Like, I reached out to Abby Johnson, and I actually sent her an email because she'd finally blocked me. So I sent her an email, and I was like, hey, so you probably don't remember me, but I'm the one that like harassed you for years on Facebook. And I did. I used to like go on her page and harass her, and I would tell her, thank God for abortion. I love my abortion. My abortion was the best thing that ever happened to me. Like, I was that person.
So, wow. You weren't just pro-choice. You were like militantly pro-abortion.
100%. Yeah.
Wow.
And I didn't believe that abortions happened after a certain point because like no one would ever do that. Like, I denied all science. I denied laws, everything. Oh, weird.
So, okay, you were 100% that person, the one that, well, people usually when I run across them, I'm just like, all right, I'm not even gonna.
I'm the person.
There's no arguing with this person.
I'm the person that people want to give up on. That's how I put it. I mean, and I've shared this before. It's not something I'm proud of, but like this is what I was like. Like I remember I was in high school. I was a senior in high school, and it was after my abortion, just after, and I was about a year after, because I graduated when I was 17, and so I was just angry all the time. And I remember this girl in my class was just being rude. She was being really mean, and she was pregnant, and I told her to go find a coat hanger. Like I say that I'm very open about my past, but like that's how just malicious, and that's how and I say that because I want people to know how much anger I had inside of me, and how far people can come. And I'm not saying it's every person that's, a shout your abortion person. Some people will never change, but that's just not who I am anymore.
But people clearly can. Wow. Goodness. I'm actually trying to. So would you say that anger and everything, was that tied to the abortion?
I really think so. Because things got a lot worse. After my abortion, I just stayed in bed for a week and a half. And then I finally started normal life again. I told everyone that I had a miscarriage, that I had told I was pregnant, because my dad threatened me to, I get in trouble if I had told anyone I was pregnant. So the people that didn't know, I just, miscarriage, oh well. And, at the time I didn't understand where so much of my anger came from.
Right.
And really tie that to just, our will to survive and protect ourselves is very strong. And the way for me to cope was to start twisting it to think that it was something that I wanted. And I used that later on in my arguments all the time. A few months ago, actually, I went back through, because if you go on your personal Facebook page, you can go to your search history and your activity, and you can go to certain dates. So I went back to 2009, 2008 area, and there's just all these sections where I saw where I loved Planned Parenthood, and I made comments on people's pages. And, I even saw where I was my abortion was the best thing that ever happened. And I really made myself believe that.
Wow.
And
honestly, it really makes you wonder, how many other people who come off that way are really just hiding something. And it sounds like in your case, even from themselves.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can't tell you. I've had other women come and tell me their stories, some who've been doing this longer than me, some who haven't publicly shared their story, but just found a couple people to confide in. And it's like they're telling my own story back to me, because theirs was the same way. It's, and my best friend, he's been my best friend since I was 11. He actually, he's a psychologist. He works primarily with troubled teens and young adults. But he's pro-choice, but he's pretty apathetic, but he supports what I do. And he and I are actually, he's one of these days, after I sit down and really get a good, clear questionnaire for him, he's actually going to go through and help me understand, so I can share with everyone how the brain works when we're in that fight or flight or freeze mode, as well as, self-preservation. So he's going to walk me through everything from, women who might feel regret, and then all of a sudden they're like, nope, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I did it. And they rewire their brains, to people who, like me, who now, looking back, yeah, I was 16, but in my brain, I want to tell myself I could have ran away. I could have done something, but I was threatened so much and so afraid, I just couldn't let myself. So I'm really excited to get his input there as a specialist. Because I think that's a big, I'm sorry to go off topic, but I feel like that's something that's really important for people to talk about. And that's something that I try to really get involved in with the pro-life community. Because so many other pro-life people will sit there and say, well, you should have just done this or done that and not had the abortion. But they're ignoring this huge part of what makes us human. And that's our brain. That's how we work. We're trying to save ourselves, especially as a kid.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is admittedly easy to, sit behind a keyboard and say, well, you should have given the kid up for adoption, or, this, that, or the other thing. Well, yeah, but is that true? Sure. but were we there? Is that helpful right now? No. And I think that does right there speak a lot to the fact that the pro-life movement, while already doing a lot, does need to do even more to kind of be down in the trenches and actually talking to people as individuals and trying to reach out and give help, honestly, wherever we can. I mean, because it's how many other people are in exactly that same sort of situation? It sounds like that's, or some sort of similar horrible type situation is all too common at Planned Parenthood.
I can't even tell you how many times. So I have not sidewalk counseled that many times. I went for a whole summer, like 2 years ago, I think. Yeah, 2 years ago. And then, we had car troubles and now we're down to one car, unfortunately. So, it just, I can't take it out and put those miles on it because the closest Planned Parenthood to sidewalk counsel to is an hour away. But when I was going, I can't tell you how many times I saw adult, parents or grandparents taking their teenage daughter who looked even younger than I did there for an abortion, or how many times I've had teenage boys walking up with their teenage girlfriend to have an abortion, and I would try to offer resources and the girl would be interested or want to talk, and the boyfriend would grab her arm or make her feel like crap, and she'd go in. And it is so common. I was only going for one summer, and then I haven't been able to go back, unfortunately. Wow. And this happened well over a dozen times.
That's the kind of thing where, man, I'll be honest. I've never done sidewalk counseling, and it's probably a good idea that I haven't, because I don't know how I would deal with it.
It's hard.
That situation you just described, where the guy is like grabbing the girl, dragging her along, be like, no, we're doing this.
We're gonna have words.
Well, exactly. It's like part of me would definitely want to have words. The other part of, but when the part of me that remembers, no, I'd go to jail and screw up the whole sidewalk counseling for everybody, because there's people that would jump on something like that. But then I'd go home and I'd be haunted by the fact that I didn't have words.
It's horrible because they have cops there, but they can't, and we've had cops that are great. They're so amazing. At least the ones over by us, we'll call and tell them, hey, we're going out today. Just letting you know, yes, we know the laws. And then every time we go, Planned Parenthood will call them and be like, you need to come out. There's protesters. And they'll just be like, we know.
we're out there. So shut up.
But no, they legally can't do anything. They can't help that girl. Like, unless she's kicking and screaming and like visibly like, I don't want to do this. They can't do anything as long as, even if she's in tears and crying and she's shown that this isn't really what she wants to do. If she says, yes, it's my choice, or yes, I'm going to do it, no one will help her.
Right. Ugh.
But I'm just, and I'm just glad that more pro-life people, especially younger generations, I think are starting, even though I'm an atheist, I so love my, the people that live in a Christ-like way are there. And especially younger generations. I'm watching younger generations be a lot more open and loving and Christ-like, that you can judge abortion without judging the woman, and there are so many other ways to go about talking to people. And
I mean, is something that is definitely the pro-life movement, I think, has matured a lot over the last, frankly, a couple of decades, and it's something that, and I want to get back to your reaching out to Abby Johnson here in just a minute, but I think that's something that was demonstrated well in the Unplanned movie, when they kind of show at the beginning, you've got a lot of people out there, doing the whole screaming, you're going to hell thing and all of that. But you kind of see how it changes to where those guys kind of fade away in favor of that young couple, the ones that started 40 Days for Life, to where they kind of realize like they don't know what they're doing. 9 times out of 10, they probably have no clue what they're doing. And this approach, it ain't gonna help them. It's not, that ain't how you go about doing it. Which of course, some of the more angry ones probably go, well, Jesus yelled at people. Well, he yelled at people mostly for being hypocrites. It's mostly what he was yelling at people for.
He didn't sit there and condemn them to hell. He offered repeated ways to how to change and repent. No one was above that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I got to acknowledge this comment too from Jake, who I also met in DC, but it was after we had parted ways that I went back to the hotel and found you down there. How the pro-life movement is kind of separating itself from the Republicans, which is good because, frankly, the Republicans really separated themselves from the pro-life movement a long time ago, if they were ever really all that connected. Let's be honest.
I think it's very much it's a talking point. It's a way to
very much so
without doing anything.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but much as I love going to the March for Life, every time they they trot the politicians out on stage and they start giving the little speeches and just like, yeah, that all sounds great. Show me something.
You could essentially play a drinking game with take a shot every time you can guess what they're gonna say next.
Yeah.
No, it's all the same.
That would be kind of fun, but probably a bad example for the for the hordes of Catholic school kids that are there.
Whatever, my family is Catholic. They know how to drink. I hear it.
Stereotypes exist for a reason. But now you were talking about how you reached out to Abby Johnson. Eventually, you like got her email or something.
Yeah.
How did that go?
So essentially, I got her email from her. It's public, like on her Facebook page. Okay. If you want to contact her. And I think this was a direct email. This is before she got really big. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, this was 9 years ago. This was only a couple years after she left Planned Parenthood. Not even. She left in what, 2007?
I don't remember exactly. I know it's been a while now, but.
Yeah, I think it's been either 10 or 12 years, something like that. But it was recent. It was before Unplanned, or no, it was just after Unplanned was released, because she ended up sending me a book after we talked on the phone. Okay. But so I emailed her, and I essentially said, I don't know if you remember me. This is how I've acted in the past, and I just told her I need help. I said I'm pregnant. I don't need help with my pregnancy. Like, I'm keeping my baby, but this is a little bit of my past, and I don't know how to think or feel, because I'd never even acknowledged. It had been years since I'd even acknowledged that my abortion hurt me, because I had buried it so deep. And right. So she emailed me back within a couple hours and sent me her phone number, and she told me to call her whenever I was free. And I remember being so nervous, because I had just been so cruel, and Abby was used to this stuff, but I mean, I was a jerk. And I called her, and she listened to my story, and then she told me her story, and I told her kind of the process that I was going through. So when I talked to her on the phone, because I was still pregnant with Eden. I was probably about 12 weeks pregnant with her when I finally called Abby, because after that first ultrasound, like, I really, really tried to stay pro-choice, and that didn't work. And so I went through the motions. I was right. Pro-life, but I supported Planned Parenthood because, it's just 3%. And then I was exceptions with rape, incest. And so talking to her really helped me see Planned Parenthood for what it was. It helped me see the value of people that are conceived in a not ideal situation. And it really went from there. Like, her and her husband, they're actually the godparents to our son.
Whoa.
Yeah, awesome. They're RJ's godparents. And wow.
That's crazy.
I owe so much to her. And honestly, where I'm at today is really because of her. Because, my husband, he was always pro-life, always, no exceptions. He was raised Roman Catholic, of course. Mm-hmm. And he could really help me with the logistics and the biological aspect. But in that moment, I really needed that emotional support. And,
right.
Here I am talking to a woman who's had 2 abortions, who also helped women have abortions and worked in that industry. It's just
thousands, literally. Yeah. Yeah, that was a great moment in the movie, where it depicts her realization of that. It was like, oh my, what? I'm sitting there. I have no idea what that would be like, other than devastating. But yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh, yeah.
so sorry. So you guys, so you actually clearly developed a genuine friendship and everything
Yeah,
after all. This is great.
Abby and I have had a weird relationship. We've been friends, and then we would fight, and then we weren't friends, and we fought another time, and now we're friends again.
Well, I imagine some of the fight. I imagine some of the subsequent fighting had to do with the crossing of the spiritual paths, because it kind of went opposite directions.
Yeah, I and it really was never anything bad, or it's not like a dramatic thing. It was just one time her and my husband got into a fight because he's a traditional Catholic and she's a new Catholic, and so they fought.
Oh my god! You're gonna have to be back on the show just to talk about all of that, because because one, I mean I'm Catholic and a convert, so I just think the conversations would be fascinating.
It's crazy. I honestly, I've had so many behind the scenes stuff that I'll never share, but it's great to have, because
Fair enough.
It's crazy, and it's been great because it helped me realize that just because someone and this isn't even about Abby. One thing I love immensely about Abby is she is one of the most transparent people you're ever going to meet. She has blatantly told some of her deepest sins, that I knew from before.
Right.
And she'll just come out and say it, and I love her about that. So this one isn't about her, but it's amazing how there are people in the pro-life movement that are really big, and you're just sitting there like, oh, you really are just like everyone else, and you don't know it. But it's good. It's good to laugh about it. It's good to say it and do so without, the vindictiveness, because we're all just human. Every one of us have done so many things we're not proud of, and none of us are bigger or better than another person.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's something that, I think the pro-life movement has come a long ways in accepting that in general. I don't know exactly. I don't know. It would be interesting to just sit and do a lot of reading and study how that evolution happened over, from kind of like the 80s to now. That would be an interesting book in and of itself. But I'm glad we're at where we're at. Is the most important thing to take away from that, I think. To where people like Abby or you can feel at home within the movement and everything, and it's just like, we're here. Yeah, you know what? You screwed up. Join the club.
Exactly. And even going with Abby, I remember when I became an atheist, and I realized I actually totally skipped that part, because we were talking about, you asked how that kind of fell into it. So my story of becoming an atheist is actually not an exciting one at all. I literally just woke up an atheist one day, and I've never been able to believe since.
Huh.
I begged, I prayed, I cried, I wanted to believe, and I couldn't. It was the weirdest experience of my life, and
this is that in and of itself is actually interesting, because I think that seems to be the case with a lot of atheists who kind of line up somewhere, who line up at least in some ways on the right of the political spectrum. Like, they tend to see the value of faith. They tend to see how, people who are living it, how, you know what? You're doing it right and all of that. And have even tried to have faith, but for whatever reason, just it doesn't come. Big names come to mind, like Roger Scruton, for example. Very, very well-known conservative philosopher, and he just couldn't. He just didn't. It's not that he didn't buy it per se. It's just that he didn't have it. Would be a better. Or Trouthammer actually is another one.
Go upstairs, please. You'll have to send me that name. What? Sorry. Honey, I'm talking to someone still. You may say hi. I'm sure it's okay if you say hi really quick.
totally fine.
You can call him Ginger.
Hey, Ginger.
Hey, dude, what's going
Hi,
on?
Look at
I
my
like- I can't look at your teeth; they're not there. That's pretty awesome. You didn't run into a table, did you?
Yeah. All right. You go upstairs. Let me finish. I'll be up in a half hour. Okay.
Then you can get some.
Yeah. Why don't you go brush your teeth?
Take it easy, Spider-Man. But well, we've got a little break in the narrative here.
But
I
it's
see.
not
I see we've got a Caleb Richardson in the chat. I don't know if is that someone you know? He might have come here through you, or maybe he just found it on the Twitters.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Okay, well, hey,
I can see them.
Here we go. Boom, right there. I love this program. But
while I've
yeah.
always been against abortion, I was a supporter of Planned Parenthood for a long time until I heard the founder's history of supporting racism and eugenics. Nice.
Yep. Facts matter, y'all.
Yep.
But yeah, Caleb, thanks for coming out regardless. And dang it, we lost Albany. Well, we'll try to get her back here in just a minute. Hopefully her kid didn't unplug her or something. These things happen, technical difficulties. Oh, there she is. Just a minute. I just got to click the right thing. Boom, there she is. All right.
Sorry, I was trying to back out of the comments and it went whoop.
That'll happen. We deal with technical difficulties all the time.
It's good.
Now, we mentioned there is. I know there's a group called Secular Pro-Life out there.
Yeah. So Kelsey Hazard is the president of Secular Pro-Life. She's actually the one I called the morning I woke up an atheist. I messaged her.
Okay.
I messaged her crying, and I was like, I don't know what's going on with my life. I don't think I believe in God anymore. You're the only atheist that I know. I need you to call me. And so she called me, and it was honestly like my whole pro-choice to pro-life conversion all over again with a different topic.
That's so interesting.
But yeah, Kelsey, Ellen Ripley, and her sister Monica. I forgot Monica's last name, but all absolutely remarkable women who helped run that.
Ripley. I feel like I'm sure I've seen that name somewhere.
Her and Monica are sisters, so you'll definitely have seen her around.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I remember seeing their. I remember seeing some of their signs and stuff at the March for Life. I was like, huh, how about that? Oh, cool. Glad you're here.
Yes. And then I hope it's okay if I do some shout outs.
Please.
For anyone. San Francisco, Pro-Life San Francisco with Teresa. I cannot pronounce her last name to save my life, so just Teresa B. But you can find her on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the same. And it's just absolutely remarkable woman. And she's vegan. She's a hardcore Democrat. She's feminist and incredibly pro-life. And so it's just, we've got a whole selection of people.
Well, I love that sort of thing just because it does show this can actually cross some fairly significant lines. I mean, vegans, you know.
Yeah.
What can I say? I mean, they don't like cheeseburgers.
Not everyone.
Something's wrong if you don't like cheeseburgers. But anyway, different topic. Either way, I'd happily help her hold up her pro-life sign, and even buy her a salad.
She actually took a 20-week fetal model and held it during the Democratic debates. She's she's awesome.
Wow. Oh man, that's cool. How does that? Do you guys ever have conversations about how that works, being a hardcore Democrat and being hardcore pro-life? Given that the Democrats are so openly pro-abortion.
Yeah. So I actually went and spoke in September. She had the first annual pro-life San Francisco Berkeley speech.
At Berkeley, no less.
Second one. Yeah. Monica from Secular Pro-Life. She actually spoke at the last one. But absolutely, it was so much fun and remarkable. And, with Teresa, she had a lot of different people come up there, and a lot of them were Democrats. And for them, it's just about taking their party back, because to them, it's, if you're honestly going to sit there and talk about a party where you want health care for all, you want people to be treated equally, you don't get to stand there and preach to us while you support the mass slaughter of over 1 million human beings every year. And
Can't argue with that.
and for them, they don't vote for a pro-choice Democrat, even though if they agree with everything, many of them are very staunch with. They will seek out the few Democrats, in running. But it's amazing. I love listening to them because economically, I'm incredible. My husband and I are both very, very right leaning. Socially, we're very libertarian.
Right.
But I love it because it really goes to show, it's always beneficial in minorities to speak up in a group. It really just is.
No, that's very interesting, especially over in San Francisco. Speaking at Berkeley, I mean, it's like the freaking epicenter. It's like that's where crazy is born. It seems like.
San Francisco was a whole new animal. I walked around. I was not prepared for it. It was crazy and cool, and it was different.
So did that coincide with the whole San Francisco Walk for Life?
No, I unfortunately didn't.
Separate events.
This one was This was in September of 2019, and I know the San Francisco Walk for Life. I think it's like the week before or week after the March for Life in DC.
Yeah, I know it's close, but not on the same day. Probably on purpose.
Yeah, one year I'd love. If I could, I would so love to go to the San Francisco one, the DC one, and the Texas one. I just think that would be the coolest experience. All those different, just such a different feel in all of them.
That actually would be a lot of fun. And my oldest daughter that you met, she'd probably love to do that as well. She'd probably love to go to San Francisco, but I would have to like calm her down, be like, no, you don't get to troll everybody. Just don't. Please don't start quoting Ben Shapiro to everyone, okay?
Okay, well then you're gonna have to wait till I'm done, and then we'll keep watching Lord of the Rings. Go upstairs.
Kid's got the priorities straight. What can I say?
He really does.
I mean, you can do a lot worse than having a kid. But Mom, I want to watch more Lord of the Rings.
I know. Like, you can wait 20 minutes. I love that. That's what makes them sad, though. I'm like, at least, I'm not worrying about future jail time or anything.
No, not unless he just decides that everyone else is an orc.
Yeah.
Then it could be a problem.
I know. You never know in today's world. They can identify as whatever they want, right?
Oh, good point. Good point. It's like, well, you identify as an orc. I identify as Aragorn. Meet Anduril. Here we go.
Here we go.
So to anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, I'm so sorry that we're just completely nerding out right now. These things.
They should get on the same boat we are. They'd be a lot happier.
Frankly, yes. I mean, after all, it's a boat that takes off from the Great Havens and goes to freaking what's essentially Avalon.
See, you have your priorities straight.
Exactly. Actually, one of the things I need to start doing very soon, now that some things have settled down, I need to start reading start the cycle again and reading The Hobbit with my boys and work our way up through the whole Lord of the Rings. I've done that with my two oldest girls, but the older boy, he didn't really have a lot of interest in it when he was about the age when I would normally start. But it's like, no, we're going to do it with you and your brother, and we're going to do this, and you're going to help get a great story, but you're going to hopefully help to understand stories just a little bit more. Yes, and exactly, Caleb, the big boat to the west. Got to go to Valinor, check things out. So you have a business where you make pro-life T-shirts, and they're not the typical pro-life T-shirt, which I appreciate. I remember reading them. I was like, okay, see, I like this. This is funny.
I'm glad. I just wanted something that was different. Being a stay-at-home mom, especially one that homeschools, like I've spent so many years trying to find different hobbies because otherwise you go insane. Staying at home and doing nothing and fighting online is not a hobby. And
no, not a healthy one.
Exactly, not a healthy one. And I've always come back to clothing. I grew up being my mom's greatest disappointment for a long time, being, her 5-year-old goth kid. And she just always wanted a really nice, pretty blonde-haired, blue-eyed little girl, and that really didn't happen. And now she loves it. My mom was at the March for Life. She went and she loved it, and she was so excited. But growing up, that was always me. I was always tearing up T-shirts and painting on them, and so that's something I've always loved. And now being able to do that with pro-life stuff, I was like, well, no one can tell me what to do. I'll put whatever I want on a T-shirt, and we got everything from profanity to things that you are really gentle and sweet or really sarcastic. So
I'm trying to remember. Oh, I think my girls got the I'm just a big clump of cells standing up for a small clump of cells.
Yeah.
I think that's the one that they got. There were definitely others. One featured Karen. I remember that. Which initially one of my girls wanted that one. I'm like, okay, hold on. One of the people at school maybe named Karen and not get the joke. It's like, let's stop and think about this before. They're like, oh yeah, in fact, yeah, I do know a Karen. Like, see, there you go. Look before you leap, kid. But yeah, and yeah, so how is that general thing going? Did you get a fair amount of traffic through the Facebook and everything?
It's been amazing, honestly. Christmas, it boomed, which is understandable. And actually, on Sunday, I'll probably do it Friday night, but I figure now that people are going to, tax season is coming around. People will have a little extra if they're lucky.
Right. Yeah, right.
I'm going to do one of my sales where it'll be like, my whole shop is 10% off. So everything is 10% off or 15% off. But it's really nice. And to me, I don't make a ton from it. I only up it a little bit just for the labor. But to me, it's just about the enjoyment of it. And, it goes to help my family because especially during this time of year, my husband, he works outside. So it's kind of like having an extra part-time job.
Right. Especially nights in Colorado. Yeah.
But I'm hoping during the summer, since we never worry financially during the summer, I really want to do, 100% of sales. We'll go to, every month we'll do a new, whether it's like, Abby's and then there were none, or Save the Storks, or even a local crisis pregnancy center. We have one. I have cat hair like flaming up in my face. There is a pregnancy center in Denver that I love, that I'd love to do, like, for 2 months, everyththing will be donated to them, and it's called Alternatives. And I love them because they're not just a regular pregnancy center. They actually have an entire wing. They've rented out like four apartment loft areas and they bought them essentially in Denver, and they tore out the walls. So it's this massive building, and they have an entire wing section dedicated to helping new moms and dads find a better job and helping them get their high school education if they didn't complete it. And like, I love all of that. So
they kind of go to the next level or two, really.
Yeah.
It reminds me, there was there was a movie a couple of years ago of Vanessa Hudgens actually was in it. I can't remember the name of it to save my life though, but she played a young woman who went to a place like that, and it was a similar sort of thing. Like she was crisis pregnancy sort of thing, and went to a place like that. It's very, 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 very interesting. I'm gonna have to look it up, and
please.
And I'll have to send you the link and everything to this movie, because I remember hearing about it. I never saw it. Otherwise, if I did, I'd remember the name. But I remember it sounded very interesting, to say the least, especially with someone like Vanessa Hudgens, who isn't someone you normally associate with that sort of subject matter. I mean, she's High School Musical, I wouldn't associate her instantly with anything serious, considering where she was coming from. But then again, as we know, people grow, people change.
A little bit.
So, what when people ask you, why are you pro-life, what is your answer?
Consistency.
Okay.
When I think about it, it really is. It doesn't register now that I understand it is always a medically living biological human being, how for one split second, I can look at this human being and go, you are disposable. It's okay if someone essentially treats you as biohazard waste. And then 2 days later, a week later, because they've reached a magical age that I've decided on, now you have value. Now it's I would clutch my pearls if someone hurt you. Like that doesn't make sense. I can't rationalize that.
Right. It's kind of like Crowder always does in his pro-life change my mind with the whole, like, where else do you draw the line if not conception?
Yep.
It's there's two places to draw the line: conception and actual birth. But there's literally no difference at actual birth from like 5 minutes before.
Well, and it's weird.
You can see it. That's it.
Exactly. And it's so fascinating to me because, Gallup polls show that most people, few people will go past like viability, but then most people are very uncomfortable going past, say, 8 to 10 weeks. And I've always found that interesting. And it really comes down to they are drawing this arbitrary line because it's how they look. It is based off of a physical experience, which is the most shallow and discriminative position, even if they don't intend it to be that way.
Right. And they do intend. I think most of them don't have. I don't think they have. I don't think most pro-choice people have what I would say a malicious intent necessarily. I really don't. And even as with even the ones that would absolutely seem to, it may just be like a defense mechanism. That may be all that's really going on there. But that said, I do also I dropped a hint of a distinction a little bit earlier, where it's like you've got there is I do make a distinction between pro-choice people and pro-abortion people. I think pro-choice people are the ones who they haven't really thought too deeply about it, and they are genuinely thinking of the mother and her concerns, and haven't thought really much about the child at all. Haven't really delved into it. Just kind of believe whatever they hear on freaking Oprah.
Yeah.
But you do have, I think there are the pro-abortion people who are like, yep, it's a life, and I don't care.
Yep, in my body, and that's the only argument they need. And
yep. I have gotten into a couple of arguments with those who were actually throwing out like pictures of whether it was a miscarried or an aborted child, and different stages. One where it's like, see, blob of tissue. I was like, well, yeah, but if that blob of tissue stayed where it was supposed to be, that would have become a baby. And another one that was probably about at the 8 to 10 weeks thing, where you've got the head and you've got little tiny little arms, and I'm like, and I was like, you've got to. I was like, that's obviously not just tissue. She's like, oh yeah, totally it is. I'm like, okay.
And it is at that point, it's like, okay, what are we defining here? Because I mean, sure, you are made up of tissue and muscle and cells. So what is your argument exactly?
Well, yeah, exactly. Like your shirt says, just a big clump of cells here. And madness. Thank you. The name of the movie that I was talking about is Gimme Shelter. Madness doing homework so I don't have to. Thank you.
Thank you. That's my old fat cat.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's a 2013 film. Gosh, I can't believe how quickly time goes.
Yeah, when you get old, you just
it does. My dad always said it's like time goes faster as you get older. And
I never realized that. I remember every time I think about that, I remember sitting in a classroom. I was in 5th grade, and I remember staring at the clock, and I remember looking at the clock every few minutes thinking, oh, a half hour had to have passed, and like no time had passed at all. And I remember just thinking, I'll never grow up. I'm never going to get older. I'm never going to be able to do what I want. And now I'm 28 and I'm like, well, this is crap.
Where does it all go? It goes right down the crapper. That's where it goes. It's like it's all just gone. I swear it's just the I don't even know how to like manage like what happens to all the time anymore. It's like freaking 10 minutes ago my oldest was like 10 years old and now she's just a few weeks away from being able to have a license.
Nope, I understand. Our Lacey Bachman, her son Christian, I forget the name of his of it, but he doesn't have eyes, and he was born with a severe cleft palate.
Oh wow.
Her story came out years and years ago. But her son Christian and my daughter Eden, the one that made me pro-life, they share a birthday. And so, I became really good friends with her. And so on February 18th, when they celebrated a birthday, Eden turned 8 and her son turned 9. And I message her every year going, I can't handle this. Like, I don't understand. I remember the entire hospital stay still.
Yep. And I swear that was like 15 minutes ago. It's like I was in the hospital yesterday. Why are you 6?
It's like I'm looking at the time on here. It says, we've been doing this for 15 minutes. I was like, that's crap. We've been talking for like 10 minutes. Like we've been just chatting. Like
Yep, exactly. So and since we are getting close to the hour, Albany, first of all, where is your website and where can people find you at?
You can find me anywhere just typing in Albany Rose. There's not a lot of us. So Facebook, Albany Rose, I'll come up. Same with Twitter, Albany _Rose. Used to be a different handle, but I forgot the password to that one. Somewhere, which sucks because Gabriel Iglesias, the comedian, follows my other account. But,
oh, really?
But not my new one. And I'm like,
crap.
Just love me. Everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and then Rose's Pro-Life Apparel is my shop on Etsy.
Okay, very good. So yeah, go check that out. Especially, wait, there's that sale coming up, but you don't have to wait for the sale either. You can just go and like look, and if you want something that gets the point across and has maybe just a little bit of snark to it, Albany's your girl.
I do try.
Yes, and it is I'll be honest, it's so much more interesting than I'm the pro-life generation. It's like, okay, that's been like a slogan for like 10 years. We can move on.
Yep, and I got nothing against it, but
it's perfectly fine. But
if I'm gonna wear something, I want it to make someone mad or happy or think or something. I want to spark an emotion.
Exactly. Much more interesting that way. And before we do wrap up, Albany, what is like one thing you would like people to take from this?
Just don't push people aside. I've been doing this for so many years now, and I can't tell you how many pro-life people will not work with me, will not follow me because I'm an atheist. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Actually, small backstory, not a long one at all, but just to give an idea of minor, very obviously they're the minimal of people, but one of the most extreme things that happened was there was a woman who was going to have an abortion. She was posting in a mom's group. Someone sent her my page. She contacted me. We talked for a couple weeks. She canceled her abortion appointment, ended up having her baby. We threw her a free baby shower where I basically helped them set up an Amazon registry, and I'm like, put 100 items on there, and we got her all the stuff. And she was currently living with her mom while they were finishing like her house or apartment before she moved out. And when all this stuff started arriving at her house, her mom wanted to have a priest come over and bless it, not because that's what priests do, but because she because she thought because I was an atheist, it meant I worshiped Satan or that I was by witchcraft involved, and that she wasn't sure that the items were safe. And this girl messaged me. She was like, I feel so bad. She's like, I hope my mom is not going to make me like get rid of this stuff. And I was like, no, like if worse came to worse, I would find someone in the state. They would take the stuff temporarily until you could get out of there. But like that's, I've had people straight up say they would never donate to one of the fundraisers I've done because I'm an atheist. I can't be trusted. I must be harboring the money. It's few in between, but it's weird.
Fair enough, guys. Don't be that guy, okay? Don't be that guy.
I will say generally, so far that I know of, about 100% of the time, it's generally a much older person who's very set in like, if you're not with Jesus, well, it sucks for you.
Right. And I think that is where you will... I think, honestly, it's probably the difference between growing up in a society where, like, you just kind of assumed that where you could assume that pretty much everyone was Christian.
Yeah.
Whereas now, even I'm a little bit different in that where I live actually is probably one of the most conservative and religious corners of the country yet, outside of Texas, and it's the kind of place where people ask you which church you go to as opposed to whether or not you go to church.
Yeah.
But still, even here, it's like you don't necessarily just make the assumption anymore, which I see as kind of good and bad. Obviously, being a Catholic convert, I want everyone to be that. But I also realize not everyone is, and it's good that I think it is good that we don't take it for granted in the way that we used to. I think that in and of itself is a very good thing because it makes us think about it a lot more, which in and of itself is good. But anyway, yeah, don't be that guy, people. Don't be that guy going, well, you don't check all my boxes, so I'm sorry. This one thing where where we both totally agree and everything, we just can't work together. I'm sorry.
I tell people at the end of the day, I don't think the baby that is saved from being killed during abortion cares what you believe or not.
No, I'm willing to bet it's totally okay with it. And he's like, you know what? Hey, I'm alive. Cool.
Right. Have your religious discussion on a separate issue. This is about real lives right now.
Exactly. And it's right now. It's down in the trenches right now. And frankly, I'll take all the dang help I can get. And honestly, it goes for pretty much any other issue where I can make common cause with anyone on. It's like, okay, fine. We don't agree on everything. We'll get a beer. We'll argue about that later. And that's fine.
That's okay. You'll be happy. I am. So I started getting a bunch of pro-life people into TikTok, like Elijah from Dang Pro-Life Memes.
Yeah.
Herb from Rehumanize International. I know Live Action's on there. And I've had TikTok for like a year. I used it to get away from abortion, and now I made my own pro-life one because I was like, yeah, well, whatever.
Good job.
And I'm riling people up tonight by making a minute-long video about why you can't be Catholic and pro-choice. And so I've got the Didache, and I've got all these things. And,
oh yeah, I did a cake right here.
Hey, I have my Dure Reeves like 3 feet that way.
Nice. See, this just goes. We're gonna have to have you back on to have the religious conversation because I think it would be very interesting.
Oh, I'm so down. Awesome. I love. See, that's the thing. Like, I always try to tell people that come on my page that preach, and I almost never get trolls. I almost never get preachy people. But when I do, I tell them, I was like, if you want to message me, let's have an actual discussion, because I promise, being the 40,000th person to tell me to believe, I'm not just going to start, but we can have a conversation because I want to listen to you. Like, I love these things. Oh yeah. And that's just it too. It's these kind of things, pro-life, religion, whatever, taxes, even, they have to be conversations. They can't. And if you're going to go into it, you got to kind of assume, at least, if you're coming at hey, I'm the one who wants to convince somebody of something, you've got to go into it assuming that it's going to take some time. Yep.
Because one of the things you do run into, and I run it with younger people too, they assume that as soon as well, this is the truth. Bam, here you go. You don't believe this? But why not? I'm like, that's not how most people work.
You're planting seeds. You're not doing a whole 180 right now. You're planting.
Exactly. Well, it's one of the things that Britt actually mentioned. It's like, Albany's an atheist, but she could probably quote the Bible better than most Christians. I'm like, it's kind of a low bar, but in all honesty, it's your average, your Christian keyboard warrior. They're usually pretty good with it. Your average person on the street, not so much.
Well, when you're doing it on a keyboard, it's really easy to go to Google real quick and it tells.
I'm not gonna lie, guilty. Okay, it's like, I can't remember exactly where that is.
Oh yeah, no, I'm the worst. I can tell you, I can read off so many scriptures and tell you whether it's metaphorical, analytical, literal, spiritual, moral, or what. But I can't tell you what the hell chipmunk what it's under.
Exactly. But hey, we are, and there's a preview of perhaps a conversation to come down the road, everybody. And first, before we roll out, we had a few extra people in the chat room today. We had Caleb, Cadis Co. I don't know who you are, but hello. And of course, we had Madness, who's a regular, and Jake. And we've got Last Call with a fun fact that Bill Gates' father was apparently head of the American Eugenics Society, which I did not know.
I will have to look that up. I do know Planned Parenthood was not the original name of Planned Parenthood.
Right. Yeah. When Singer founded it, was named something different, and the history of Planned Parenthood itself is a whole nother show that could be done.
I will say though, there is actually a photo of Sanger. So she did address women of the KKK once. It's in her book, but there's actually a photo of her, a really popular one where she's like speaking to the KKK men that's actually doctored. So I love talking about things like that because I'm like, as pro-life as I am, and as much as I hate Planned Parenthood, still have to call out when something's a lie. So I will actually have to look that one up because I feel like I've heard something before with Bill Gates and his dad, but I don't remember.
Okay. By all means, it certainly wouldn't shock me. But yeah, there is unfortunately there's crazy stuff out there.
Jake comment, if you aren't with me, then you will have to be against me. Purity is the only proper way. Shun the non-believer.
Right. And Jake is actually one of my better friends on Twitter and Discord as well. And we're Catholic, and I'm a Catholic, and he's LDS, and we get along. So
I love LDS. I love LDS. Catholic and LDS are my favorite. I do. I love. Yes.
Well, you'll have to stick around and keep an eye on the show because Jake and I we've got another friend. We're going to be piloting another series on Fighting the Void that is going to get into various different religious matters, differences between Catholics, LDS, and like your average Protestant. Please let me know when you guys do that. That'd be fantastic. Yeah. Well, hey, stay. I'll. In fact, when we're going to do that, I'll let you know. It's probably a solid month out yet with my guest lineup and everything, but it's coming. And so everybody
that'll give me time to finish the Book of Mormon.
Oh well, there you go. And so everybody out there who was in the chat room, thanks so much for coming in. Make sure to subscribe and do all that cool stuff where I chill and beg you for support. And don't worry, we're gonna do comics, I swear. In fact, maybe next week Jacob Airy is gonna be on. We're gonna talk state of the comics industry. So until then, everybody remember a couple of the things that we talked about here. Don't give up on anybody, no matter what they seem like, no matter where they're at.
Take some breaks from them.
Exactly. No matter what, you don't know what a person's dealing with. You don't know how far a person can come. And Abby Johnson is a famous example of that. Albany Rose is not famous, but she is just as extreme an example as Abby Johnson. So don't give up on people. If you can't argue with them anymore, pray for them.
There you go.
And if you don't do that, well, then just wait for those seeds to wait for those little seeds that you might have planted to bear a little bit of fruit, because eventually they just might. And so with that, I will thank Abby for Albany for coming on the show.
It was like Abby was here half the time.
A little bit. I wonder if she knows we were invoking her name. So in any case, thank you again for coming on, and everyone will see you next week. And until then, keep fighting the good fight.